What if the only thing standing between you and your dreams is the story you've been telling yourself? Asterisk asterisk. Let me tell you about a sparrow who proved that wrong. Deep in a forgotten forest, tucked between mountains that touched the clouds, there lived a bird named Pip. He was small, unremarkable, the kind of creature you'd walk past without a second glance. Brown feathers, tiny wings, nothing special. But inside, Pip carried something most birds didn't have, a fire. He'd heard stories from travelers. Stories of golden deserts that stretched forever, of oceans that sparkled like diamonds, of skies so vast you could lose yourself in them. And every night, he'd whisper the same words to the stars. One day, I'll see those places too. But dreams? Dreams have a price. And in Pip's world, that price was mockery. You? Cross the mountains. An old crow would laugh, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You can barely fly above the treeline. Just be happy with what you've got. A pigeon would say, shaking her head. Dreams like that? They'll kill you. And for a while, Pip believed them. He folded his wings. He stayed small. He told himself maybe they were right. But then, everything changed. One morning, as golden light poured through the trees, Pip heard a crash. A falcon, massive, powerful, proud, had slammed into the ground near his tree. His wings were torn. His feathers singed, like he'd flown through hell itself. Most birds would have stayed away. Falcons were predators. Dangerous. But Pip didn't hesitate. He hopped down, gathering leaves and herbs he'd watched the squirrels use for healing. Day after day, he tended to this wounded warrior. And slowly, the falcon's walls came down. Why? The falcon finally asked one evening, his voice rough with confusion. Why would you help me? Pip looked up at him, his small eyes steady. Because you needed help. That's enough. When the falcon could finally fly again, he didn't just leave. He turned to Pip, his gaze heavy with respect. You're small, he said. But your heart? Your heart is mighty. Then he told Pip a story. A story about another sparrow, even smaller than Pip, who had crossed an entire desert alone. No map, no guidance, just belief, just will, and that will carried her all the way. Before he left, the falcon gave Pip a gift, a single feather from his own wing, silver, tipped with red, glowing faintly in the light. This is a feather of fire, the falcon said. Let it remind you, your size doesn't define your strength. The fire? It's already inside you. That night, Pip couldn't sleep. The story, the feather, his own buried dreams. They all swirled inside him like a storm. And when the sun rose, he made a decision. He packed seeds in a leaf pouch, tied the feather to his leg with grass, and looked up at the mountains. They were enormous, ancient, terrifying. Most birds avoided them completely. The air was thin, the winds cruel, the cold unforgiving. But Pip took off anyway. The first few hours felt like magic. The wind was gentle. The trees below waved like old friends. He felt like he belonged in the sky. But then he reached the mountains, and everything changed. The wind turned vicious. The air grew thin and cold, biting into his lungs. Pip flapped harder. He climbed higher. But with every beat of his wings, the doubts crept back in. You're too small. You'll never make it. Go back. Then a gust hit him like a wall. Pip tumbled through the air, his pouch tearing open, seeds scattering into the void. He slammed onto a rocky ledge, gasping, trembling. Tears filled his eyes. Maybe they were right, he whispered. Maybe dreams really are dangerous. Then he felt it, the feather against his leg, still shimmering, still warm. The fire is already within you. Pip stood up, his chest heaving, his wings shaking. I may be small, he said aloud, but I'm not weak. And he leapt off the ledge. The mountains threw everything at him. Snowflakes like needles, winds that tried to rip him from the sky, thin air that clawed at his breath. But Pip didn't stop. He flew by night, rested by day, drank from frozen springs, hid in hollow rocks. Days passed. His body ached. His wings burned, but he kept going. And then, one morning, he rose above the final ridge. The clouds parted. The sun broke through, and Pip saw it. A vast land stretched before him. Golden fields, rivers that sparkled like glass, forests alive with color. The sky looked endless. It was more beautiful than anything he'd ever imagined. He had done it. He had crossed the mountains. Pip spent weeks exploring. He met birds he'd never dreamed of. Bright flamingos, clever parrots, swift hummingbirds. And here, no one laughed at his size. They listened to his story. They asked about the feather. They marveled at his courage. One day, a young bird approached him. "Is it true?" she asked, her eyes wide. "You really crossed the mountains?" Pip nodded. "But how?" He smiled. "The power was never in my wings. It was always in me." Many seasons later, Pip returned to his old forest. The same crow, the same woodpecker, the same pigeon. But when Pip landed, they barely recognized him. He carried himself differently now. His eyes held wisdom. His heart radiated warmth. You came back?" the crow stammered. "Yes," Pip said, smiling. "And I have stories to share." Soon, young birds gathered around him every evening. He told them about golden lands and hidden valleys, about falcons and feathers, about storms and skies. But more than anything, he told them about belief. He never said it was easy, but he always said it was worth it. Pip built his nest high in the tallest tree, where he could see both the mountains and the skies beyond. The feather of fire still hung there, glowing softly, reminding everyone who saw it of what was possible. And every time a young bird doubted themselves, Pip would smile and say, "You don't have to be the biggest or the strongest. You just have to believe. The world will try to tell you what you can't do, but only you can decide what you will do. So here's the truth. You already have everything you need. The fire is already inside you. The question isn't whether you can. The question is, will you?" ****. If the story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that remind you of your own power. And drop a comment. What's your mountain? What's the dream you've been too afraid to chase? Because I believe you can do it. Now it's time for you to believe it too. ****.